Good evening. It is Tuesday, January 14th of 2025. This is the Stoughton City Council meeting, and the first order of business is roll call. Clerk Kristen.
Okay, Abel.
Here.
Butler.
Present.
Caravello.
Here.
Hirsch.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
Lagaki. Majewski.
Here.
Payton.
Absent and excused.
Okay, thank you. Schumacher.
Here.
Wozniak Scanlon.
Here.
Nino.
Here.
And did we, so,
Sure, Lucky's absent and excused.
correct. Yep, we have 9 alders present, and yep, Alder Sherlucky is absent and excused, as well as Payton and Lagaki.
Lagaki is here.
Oh, she is here now. Okay, thank you. Well, we have 10 alders present now. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So the next order of business is the public comment, and I'll just briefly go through the rules. We do have 18 people signed up to speak, and each person has up to 3 minutes. Candy, our clerk, is on virtually. She's going to help me with the timer. If we start getting close to the 3 minutes, I have cue cards. And I think Candy's going to send me a message and tell me when to put the cue cards up. So we'll see if I can follow instructions. The council does not respond. It's not an interaction. It's just us to hear. And anything you may ask or we may discuss later on when we do the deliberation. We do have a 30-minute limit. The council can waive that if they so choose. We'll see how it's going. And then we ask, people to be polite and professional, as I know you all will be, and hopefully we will be as well. And that's basically how we roll. So what we did is the clerk helped me assemble all the names of people that signed up, and we have people speaking in the order that they signed up. So the first person, and I like to give first names so I don't butcher last names. So the first person that signed up, though, I know I can get his name right, but it's Todd. Come on up. You can introduce yourself, push the button, the red light will come on, and you'll have 3 minutes. Thanks for being here.
Yes, thank you. My name is Todd Hewing. I live at 119 North Page. I also own a business at 129 East Main, and I'm a member of the Landmarks Commission. And I wrote down my comments because I don't want to see Tim's cue cards come out. So I asked to speak today because, at least based on the information in the meeting packet, it appeared that the city is being pressured to decide on the sale of a historic building without being allowed to act with due diligence. The Smet Foundation has expressed an interest in helping to revitalize the Depot Hill Historic District. They have outlined a wonderful vision of an arts and innovation district, a vision that I'm sure most of us in this room would enthusiastically support. However, their proposal includes a highly unusual requirement that the foundation be allowed to acquire one of Stoughton's most well-utilized historic buildings, a building that already has been restored and is well-maintained, a building that is home to 2 organizations that have been and continue to be major contributors to Stoughton's heritage and economy, 2 organizations that would normally be considered a valuable tenant of a historic district. To me, as someone with a bit of a background in historic preservation and economic revitalization, this doesn't make any sense. The proposal and the subsequent offer seem inconsistent with the actions of a foundation truly interested in revitalizing the Depot Hill district. Nevertheless, I am quite sure, positively, that John and Cynthia Smet genuinely want to make a positive contribution to the city. After reviewing the materials in the past city meeting packets and after meeting with some of you individually, I am convinced the Smets have been misled. In my opinion, accepting their offer would put the Smets in a difficult situation. I am concerned that this could ultimately cause them to back out of the project entirely. I've seen this happen before. Some of you, I've told my Cracker Barrel story. I won't tell it here because it'll bring out the cue cards. I've seen this happen before, and I'm sure many of you have witnessed situations where a city's lack of candor has ultimately doomed a promising project. I'm not asking the council to make any decisions based on my opinions or what I believe. I am thrilled that the Smets have taken an interest in helping to revitalize the Depot Hill district. I wholeheartedly support their vision of an arts and innovation district. I hope that we don't ruin this wonderful opportunity by rushing to approve an offer that neither side will ultimately be happy with. If this sale is good for the city today, it'll be good for the city next month or the month after. If this sale is good for the Smet Foundation today, it'll still be good for the Smet Foundation next month or the month after. I think we need to be sure that both sides have all the facts necessary to make a good decision. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Nancy would be next.
I'm Nancy Hagan. I'm president of the Stoughton Historical Society. Do you want my address, or?
We have it.
You have it, okay.
Yep.
Our Stoughton Historical Society mission is to collect, preserve, and share the history and culture of the Stoughton area through our museum exhibits, educational programs, and oral history recordings. One program at the Depot and museum is the annual 6th grade historic tours, which allow over 200 sixth graders to visit both museums. The Smet proposal for the interior of the Depot is to turn the chamber office into artist studios, gathering spaces, and classes. The north part of the building, which houses our Transportation and Agricultural Museum, would also house offices. If the Smet proposal is passed tonight, our museum faces an eviction notice to empty our museum by March 24th. That is in their contract. Pretty scary mandate. We have over 500 artifacts, including 5 Manton New Stoughton wagons. They would lose their home at the Depot. In a conversation with Jerry Grettenholm on Monday, January 13th, 2025, the Bryan Foundation will grant the Stoughton Historical Society $175,000. We, the Stoughton Historical Society, are making an offer to purchase the railroad passenger depot at 532 East Main Street from the City of Stoughton for $175,000. We are requesting the offer from the Smet Foundation is tabled to January 24th. And I was a little misunderstood on the MOU, and I guess we can't request that. We can't talk. I don't really know how it works, the MOU, but I understand that maybe my information is wrong, how it could work. But we were hoping that we would get needed time for the Stoughton Historical Society to submit a formal offer of purchase. Our understanding is that no binding agreement exists with the Smet Foundation at this time. Our depot that houses the chamber, the Stoughton Historical Society Museum, is a major player in tourism and has only added to the revitalization of Depot Hill. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike is next.
I'm Mike Connor, founder of the Innovation Center Stoughton and Fab Lab Stoughton. I'm here tonight to express my support for the Depot Transfer Project in support of the creative district proposed by the Smet Foundation. Everyone here generally agrees that the depot is an important part of our community. It is protected landmark. It is something we love, and it is something that needs some love. But that's not really why I'm here tonight. I'm here tonight because I'm really excited about the possibilities before us. We have the chance, a really good chance, to revitalize a long blighted area in our community. For years, we have watched, and waited for someone or something to change this blight. For me and others, it's been like trying to push a rope up a hill. Yes, some progress has been made over the past few years, but it's been painfully slow process and no overall vision or plan. The folks that decry the depot sale will tell you that it needs to remain in public ownership, even though all of us in this room know it's a burden for the city to maintain. They will also tell you that they need a place to store the Mant wagons, which is really important part of the history. I completely understand where they're coming from. I understand they've worked hard to preserve the depot. I believe we can find common ground. I believe we can find a better, more visible shelter for the wagons. I also believe Chris, from the architect from the Smet Foundation, is a preservationist at heart. I've seen his work in Madison, Kansas City, and other places around the Midwest. The depot will be in good hands. I'm looking forward to working with the council as the creative district moves forward. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Gwen is up next, and Bonnie will be on deck.
Hi there, my name's Gwen Drury. I live at 710 South Monroe, and my comments are written and they're in large print, so don't get scared by the number of pages here. I'm going to speak fast. If you didn't hear it, I made copies. So what I'd like to say is that how matters. How a thing gets done can be as impactful as actually getting that thing done. How Habitat for Humanity gets houses built and owners into them is far more impactful than any given house build that they've gotten done. Volunteers trust the process. They know that their free labor will not be monetized for profit. Buyers trust the process. They know that by investing their sweat equity and hopes into a particular house, they earn the privilege of buying that house, and Habitat will not simply list it on the open market. Over time, Habitat has earned a trustworthy reputation that has built their organizational strength and bolstered their future capacity to build even more homes with less cash. Trust is the secret sauce in Habitat's famous recipe for economic development. The Smet Foundation also agrees that how matters. They have created 18 operating principles and listed them on their website, like, number 2, we do the right thing as a matter of principle, not just observance of policy. Number 3, we will operate with the highest ethical standards in all regards. Number 8, we will be considered an exemplary partner for every organization with which we work. 11, we will always be respectful of all our partners and associates. Any organization operating by these principles would deserve our trust. So, do we need trust or do we need money? John Smet made his fortune working for Capital Group, that's the name of the organization, for 36 years. So I think it's pretty safe to assume that he's very familiar with financial capital. Economists define capital as the capacity to get things done. But there are other forms of capital besides financial capital, like human capital, political capital, and social capital. Social capital is defined as the capacity to get things done based on norms of trust and reciprocity that are cultivated and actually reside in the bonds between people. Any group of individuals, rich or poor, can get more done if they have bonds of trust and reciprocity built between them than if they don't. Today's society tends to overlook the value of trust and social capital. There's a TV show called Deal or No Deal Island. It's a competition based on the idea that getting people to trust you just long enough for you to grab the big money before they do is a viable social norm. In this view, the short-term win and winner takes all is the ultimate objective. The winner wins, the show ends, then you start all over with a new group. Only the short-term win matters, since on their island, the long-term world does not exist. But ironically, even on Deal or No Deal Island, trust is critical to the show's capacity to generate financial capital over time. How many contestants would sign up for that nonsense for the next season if the banker could not be trusted to award the prize at the end? In the long term, trust matters no matter what. Luckily, we don't live on Deal or No Deal Island, where financial capital is made starkly visible in suitcases packed with cash. We live in Stoughton, Wisconsin, and though social capital is invisible and doesn't come packed in shiny suitcases, we can look around our city and see some shining examples of what social capital has produced here. The Youth Center, rescued and restored by volunteers. The Opera House, rescued and restored by volunteers, and that hard work attracting the support of the Jeffries Foundation. The Depot, rescued and restored by volunteers, ending up catching the eye of the Smet Foundation and then attracting the support of the Bryant Foundation. Stoughton is on an upward trajectory. The social capital invested by Stoughton's generous volunteers kick-started that trajectory, even during times when financial capital wasn't flowing. Our golden eggs were laid by our social capital goose. We need to slow this process down so the precious goose doesn't get cooked. I'm going to skip. Are you giving me the
Yeah,
signal?
we'll give you a few more to wrap it up.
Okay. I am confident that Stoughton need not fear that slowing down these decisions will elicit a deal or no deal style ultimatum from the Smet Foundation. Their principles assure us that they will do the right thing as a matter of principle, not just in observance of policy. The Stoughton Historical Society has faithfully cared for Stoughton's historical artifacts since 1960. These are not our organization's artifacts. These are your artifacts. We just care for them. Our community trusts us to care for them and the buildings that house them. We, as unpaid volunteers, do that. We have put in the work and we have earned your trust. Reciprocally, we choose to trust you back. We trust that you will take the time to see our presentation about the process of how the depot was rescued and restored before you take a vote, and that you will take the time to make a well-considered decision and give us time to do the same. I'm going to skip down.
It's going to be
skip
time.
down.
You're going to have to end there. You're over time.
Okay, well, the final thing I want to say is that we definitely support the Smet Foundation and the idea of expanding the district. We'd like to work with them in any way possible, but we don't think that we should be evicted when we've done nothing wrong and we've only cared for the history of this city. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Bonnie's up. David's on deck.
I'm Bonnie Ray, and I'm the co-secretary of the Stoughton Historical Society. The depot was restored by members of the Stoughton Historical Society and the community. The funds were secured by the Stoughton Historical Society. The promise was that the depot would look exactly like it had inside and out. They wanted to save it for the town. They made it clear from the beginning it would house the Mant Wagon and the Historic Agricultural Collection. Without them, there would be no depot today. Luke Stoughton had a vision to give his land to the railroad. Other towns wanted the railroad to pay for their land. The railroad went through Stoughton. Without his foresight, we would be sitting now at a crossroads like the ones in Dunkirk, and Rutland Center. Please leave this depot as a tribute to Luke Stoughton and the successful town and city that owes its prosperity to the depot and to the railroad. As for any other building that the Smets Foundation is interested in for the Art District, that has my support.
Thank you. David's up, and Christopher, if he wishes to speak, is on deck. Yep, come on up, Dave.
I don't know if there's more than one.
Nope. No. Interesting enough, there's only one name for everybody that wants to speak.
Okay.
So you got lucky.
Oh, yeah. I'm Dave Cullen, born and raised in Stoughton. I've been president of the Historical Society in the past for 16 years. I was a step-on tour guide for tour buses in Stoughton. I do not support the sale of the depot to the Smet Foundation. My dad, Put Cullen, was the one that spearheaded the project to restore the depot. Back 35 years ago, Mayor Doug Fundeller in the city finally got a chance to buy the depot from the DOT, and my dad stepped up to the plate to see that it got restored. The city spent no tax money, none of their money, and none of their employees put any work into the restoration. It was all volunteers. When the Cleaver Beverage House was being torn down for the expansion of the library, the volunteers went in that building and removed the flooring, electrical wiring, doors, and everything, whatever else they could use at the depot. And from that time on, the Historic Society had a good understanding with the city and vice versa that it would always be used for the chamber office and for the overflow of the historical items. And in the past, all the other city council members and mayors agreed to that understanding. Now all of a sudden you disagree. I don't know why can't you want to save the depot the way it is, keep it the same for education. You talk about you want your kids and grandkids to have a good education. I believe history is part of that, and the depot is people, and the contents is part of that history. We got 5 Stoughton Mant wagons there, got a bike that is manufactured by Peter Amundsen that goes on the railroad tracks for inspecting the rails. There's a soapbox derby car advertising Tyler's shoe store when they had soapbox derby races on Wilson Street. There's pictures and handmade skis because Stoughton had the tallest ski jump in America. Blew down May 7th, 1914. Some people say they remember it. Well, they don't look as old as they should because I blew down in 1914. I totally am against the sale of the depot. Every building needs maintenance through the years. For many years, I was up on the portico repairing the rubber roof there with a can of tar and some inner tube. And finally it got too bad I couldn't handle it, and finally the city had to replace it. Well, that was 35 years for a roof. The furnace had to be replaced. Well, furnaces usually last 20 years. Again, that lasted more than 20 years. And same with hot water heater. So I'm against the sale of the depot.
Thank you. I don't know if Christopher wants to speak right now. Go ahead. I didn't even see you back there.
So, hi,
And
everybody.
then Ann Nelson is on deck.
So I'm Christopher Gosh. I'm working with the Smet Foundation. So we started about a year and a half ago to try to identify some properties down in the district and then take the last 20 years or so of the comprehensive plan adjustments and some, a lot of the studies for that area, kind of put it in the blender, see if that was consistent with what the Smet Foundation was looking to do. One thing that's been incredibly consistent with the conversations that we've had with city staff and with elected officials is that, hey, this area has been identified for a very long time as a huge amount of potential. And frankly, the history down in that area, a lot of which has been demolished or is now buried, is incredible, right? There's no doubt about that. And I think what the Smet Foundation has really accurately identified is, let's take this history and let's make it a dynamic place. Let's use all of these properties to restore, to reuse, make it a backdrop for continuing innovation, for continuing invention, for continuing education. And I think that's been a really exciting thing to be a part of. Just a couple things to address, though. The depot was never proposed to be demolished. It was never proposed to be gutted. There's zero desire to do that. There is 100% desire to get more people in there to use it, to have evening classes, to have visiting artists, to have to work with the rest of the community to find ways to engage and appreciate what that district is, and particularly what the buildings are down there. And I think that I get hung up on making sure that we're complying with comprehensive plan and zoning and everything else. There's still a number of reviews and boards that are committees that we'll have to go through, as part of that offer that was submitted. And there's still so much oversight that's going to happen and should happen, right? Because everyone is committed to doing this for the benefit of the greater community, including and especially for all the people that have spent their time restoring this building, and our understanding of what the current lease situation is, and we're committed to making that work. And then a vote tonight would allow us to continue down that path to remove or to keep exploring that possibility. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Ann Nelson would be next. Is Ann here?
Not here.
Okay. So then Barb Zander would be up, and then Ingrid is on deck.
My name is Barb Zander. I was born and raised in this wonderful city, moved away for many years, and was so happy to return. My family moved here in the 1800s. One side of my family lived in the city on Page Street, and the other side farmed on Highway A, excuse me, just outside of Stoughton. I had many relatives who served the city in various positions, whether it was owning businesses on Main Street, serving on the city council, and my father was fire chief and a member of the department for 50 years. There were several family members who worked diligently to put the Stoughton Museum together. I remember listening to some of my favorite people, Evelyn Kwame and Marcia Halverson, to name two, discussing additions and changes that the Historical Society were making at the Stoughton Museum. When I heard that the depot was going to be sold, without considering what that building has meant to the city's history and turned into possible offices and other things that are rumored, was very disappointed that the city would even consider selling this historic building. I can't understand, nor can I figure out why we would let go of another piece of history in this city. That building served as a train depot for people coming and going from Stoughton to Madison and Chicago for many years. The depot is currently the headquarters for the chamber and the annex for the Stoughton Historical Society. The front half of the building has displays that look like what it looked like when it was a train depot. It's a mini museum. There's a lot of traffic in and out of that building throughout the year, and especially when we celebrate Stoughton Mai. There are many people, both residents and visitors alike, that come to that depot to interact with the chamber staff or to see some of the very interesting items belonging to the early Stoughton farms and businesses in the annex. It's a perfect building that showcases Stoughton's history. This building stood empty for years and years, and the Historical Society, with the approval of the city, made major repairs and updates. There are many fundraisers by the Historical Society to finance the restoration of that Stoughton train building. It would be a very sad decision to sell the depot for any reason to anyone. Please keep the depot a part of the character of Stoughton and keep its historic past available to the visitors, the chamber staff, and the Historical Society. Thank you.
So Ingrid would be up, and Dean is on deck.
Hi, Ingrid McMasters. I'm at Spry Whimsy Fiber Arts, 168 West Main Street. Also live there. I'm also representing the Stoughton Downtown Merchants Association. We did vote this week as a board from the Stoughton Downtown Merchants Association to endorse the sale of 532 East Main Street for the Depot Hill Creative Project, as we were seeing it as an entire project, and this is just part of the project. I'm going to say what we came up with, and then I'll have my own personal note. The mission of the Depot Hill Creative Project closely parallels the SDMA's mission statement, which is to support and promote downtown merchants through collaboration, advocacy, shared resources, and marketing that creates a vibrant downtown experience. We believe that the project will enhance the existing art district. We believe the project will offer opportunities to artists in a collaborative environment that will otherwise not be available to some artists. The project will provide a community creative space. The intent is to develop exterior community gathering and green space. The project will support community events. The project coordinators intend to support the Stoughton Historical Society in creating a suitable replacement space for the existing collection housing housed within the building. This was from the Smet Foundation. The property deed restrictions require that the space continues to be used for the public. The exterior of the building is and will continue to be maintained as required per the Wisconsin Historical Society as a registered historic place. And we believe that the intent of the Smet Foundation is similar in nature to the Bryant Foundation's work in Stoughton, without whom we would not have the Stoughton Opera House nor the Norwegian Heritage Center, Livresa, both of which have uplifted our community and will continue to do so in the future, without which Stoughton would not be the culturally interesting community in which we live and want people to visit. Our tourism and civic pride rely on this type of philanthropy and community investment that the Smet Foundation is offering. That's from the SDMA. On a personal note, I am hearing the amount of investment that people personally have in this building, the family relationships that they have with this building. And I request that this is not a rushed decision, that this is well thought out, and that the Historical Society is respected. It is an opportunity for them to expand, build, and have maybe a space where more people will understand that they can go there and see the objects in a more intimate setting so that they can actually get closer to them and be able to see them. So thank you.
All right. We have Dean, and then Kara is on deck.
My name is Dean Hansen. I'm 74 years old, and I'm born and raised in Stoughton. I live at 716 Hamlin Street for the last 45 years as the occupant owner. However, I only own that house because the house my wife and I signed a contract for to build, I had to cancel because my grandma who lived there demanded I keep the house and the family. The point of that to me is that with my grandparents and ancestors, it's one of very few houses in all of Stoughton that's owned and occupied by the same family for 95 years. So I have some experience of life and value of the community and the importance of the Historical Society, which I've become a member of, and the museum that I use, or the train depot that I use myself. On the wall over there is a bunch of pictures of the past city government. My father-in-law was a city building inspector for over 20 years, and one of the pictures of the city council, my mother was on the city council. So I will tell you, I know from personal experience and fact from my life, the city council has made a mistake more than once in the past. Most of it was able to be caught and corrected. If the city council at present sells this property away from the city and makes it private owned or some other form of ownership, you're going to lose the opportunity, and it would be a mistake that can't be corrected. So I believe the Smets effort is a good thing, and it's just the wrong place. And I would agree to support them, as we all talked about at our Historical Society meetings. But I just hope that you reevaluate. And now that we have some other financial situation supporting our point of view, I think it's warranted that you give a lot of thought and consideration. And we have proposed a public presentation a little later this month. We encourage you all and anybody that's hearing my voice to make a point to come and see the presentation, PowerPoint and history, and why the Historical Society as a group would like the City Council to change the direction of this opportunity. And from what I've been told and I've been hearing, the depot is not the only building or location that potentially would fit this situation with the Smets and their art. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Kara's up, and then Norm is on deck.
Good evening. My name is Kara Kasten Olson, and I am here as part of the Smet Foundation and the Depot Hill Creative Project as an interim executive director. The Smet Foundation is completely committed to seeing this project through the proper way. I've reached out to many community members to seek feedback on what they think will be beneficial to the community. We feel very confident that this project will benefit local businesses, organizations, and residents. We look forward to working together and finding a possible solution for all parties involved. Thank you.
Norm is up, and then Betty would be on deck.
Mayor Swadley, members of the council, members of the community of Stoughton. I'll start out by saying I'm not a Stoughton resident, but I regard myself as a member of the Stoughton community. I'm a farmer down the road in Dunkirk. We moved here in 1960, and so I'm here because Stoughton is a part of me, just like Stoughton is a part of the land that surrounds the community. I'm here as, I guess you could say, a character reference for John and Cindy Smet. I'm looking around the room, and I'm pretty sure I've known John Smet longer than anybody else here. I grew up with John. His family lived across the fields. I looked up to John. He was a year ahead of me in school. He graduated in 1974, I in 75. At that time, John was named the Obadiah Norm Award as a graduating senior who displayed outstanding leadership and citizenship. I'm telling these stories because I want you to know who this man is and who his wife is. And on both sides, whether you're for or against, but you need to know that he's more than just a California guy. I'll tell a few stories. I'm watching the time. Mayor, I am colorblind, so you might have to wave, okay?
So John graduated in 74, I graduated in 75. John and I, in common, we grew tobacco to put ourselves through the University of Wisconsin. One story about John and his family. In 1978, I had an accident at the Utica Festival. It was an honorable accident. I was playing softball, but I was in the hospital for a week. The next day, after I was put into the hospital, my tobacco crop was due to be harvested. And I'm going to be laid up for quite a while. I get home, and John and his brothers and the family and other neighbors had stepped forward to harvest our crop of tobacco. I tell that story because that was in 1978, and knowing John all these years, he is a good friend, a trusted friend. John and Cindy have the same attitude and character that, am I out of time?
30 seconds.
30 seconds, okay. He has the same character today that he did then. Since that time, 1978, as John has developed his businesses and so on, he has given, John and Cindy, through their foundation, they have given personal capital, financial resources around the world that people do not know of, that he does not want people to know of. So here he comes back. 51 years, 1974, he graduated. 51 years, he comes back to this community, the place that, you know, his whole family has great heritage. I know I'm just about out, 30 seconds. But he comes back 51 years later and wants to do something for this community that he loves and set him on his trajectory. People don't do that for financial gain. They do that to do something good. So whatever side you are on, I want you to know that John and Cindy Smith, they're people, they're highly credible, they're humble people, they're of character, and them coming forward to Stoughton offers Stoughton an opportunity and a blessing for great development. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, Betty would be up next, and then Richard is on deck.
My name is Betty Marshall. I am a resident of District 1, and I'm a Stoughton Historical Society member. I hope you bear with me. Some of this you might have heard already, but a lot of it you haven't. So I'm speaking to agenda item 4C and item 10, especially 4C, which in the agenda reads background information, city acquisition of depot building. Largely what I'm speaking to. Incorporated in 1960, the Historical Society's mission is to collect, preserve, and share the history of Stoughton. The Society's ability to lead the depot preservation began with one talented man who described himself as a person who just can't sit. I'd just as soon have something to do. Pud Cullen was vice president of the Stoughton Historical Society and is quoted in a 1989 Cap Times article stating he guessed that he put in about 350 hours in the depot. He didn't work alone. He was joined by Chet Johnson, Bill Lustgarten, Gerhard Schiedel, and others. The Stoughton Courier Hub named Pud in 1990 Citizen of the Year, quoting the Hub from December 2790. The most obvious of his projects to bear fruit in 1990 was, just a few years ago, an eyesore and a problem for community leaders. The old railroad depot had become so dilapidated, city officials worried about injuries to pedestrians from falling debris. The article continues, while Cullen didn't single-handedly restore the depot, he was an early advocate for the city's eventual acquisition of it. Plus, he told the city he would see to it the structure was restored. Piece by piece, the project moved forward, first with repairs to rotted wood, exterior areas, later renovating the interior, and reworked the wiring, installing a new furnace. He's quoted in the article as saying, "I think everyone feels it was something that improved the community. We just got paid in compliments, and that makes you feel good too." Stoughton has a very proud, end of the article, Stoughton has a very proud tradition of community volunteerism and helping our neighbors. The Stoughton Historical Society partnered with the city and saved the depot with volunteers. Speaking to item 10, I hope that there's time for the community to hear more information. Ask questions at the presentation that was already scheduled before the offer to purchase came in for next Tuesday. I believe the Stoughton Historical Society is a stakeholder, and I respectfully ask all of you to vote in favor of tabling the Smet Foundation offer to purchase until there's a time to collaborate with all stakeholders. Speaking to just a couple of things I heard tonight, I have to
just throw out, this has started a year and a half ago, 18 months, and nobody approached the Stoughton Historical Society? We are not merely a tenant. That's quite insulting beyond belief. Thank you.
All right, I have Richard. There's 3 more after Richard. I assume that you want to hear from everybody because the 30 minutes will be up, but you want to continue? All right, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Rich Hagan. I'm a member of the Stoughton Historical Society also, and I share a lot of the frustrations that have been expressed tonight as well, mostly about the process, the lack of courtesy in getting the Stoughton Historical Society involved in this whole discussion. But I want to spend some of my time tonight to kind of speak on behalf of those volunteers that we've heard about already. I think I can speak for them a little bit because I participated with them probably for about a day and a half, climbing around in that crawl space underneath the building at the depot, and I understand what they committed to accomplish, what they did there with their efforts, their labor, their knowledge and skills, and they did that because there was a commitment from this council, your predecessors there, that they would benefit the Historical Society by using that space forever. It was an irrevocable commitment that was made. And I think that going back on that today by approving this offer to purchase would send the wrong message. This proposal, this offer is flawed. It throws the Historical Society under the bus, and by voting no on it tonight, you would enable it to be brought up for discussion and input from everybody in the future. And I encourage you to vote no on this offer to purchase tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Joanne is next, and then Catherine would be on deck, and then the last one signed up would be Alan after that.
Thank you. I'm Joanne Grassman. I own Grand Inspired at 501 East Main Street. I restored that building with some support from the city to obtain a grant through the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. The purpose of that was to restore a blighted historical building with the goal that that development act as a catalyst for more development that brings life back into an area where people may not go because things are not there for them. The Smet Foundation now brings an opportunity to fulfill that vision, to house creative pursuits, activities that actually bring people to that area, to the east end of Main Street. Kara, who just spoke and represents the Smet Foundation, has been open. She's been actively seeking relationships, working together with me, with other business owners, with other people who are in the creative domain. She has been so willing to collaborate, to work together, to listen to our ideas. She's heard them. They've adjusted their plans when we have shared concerns or said what we are hearing the community would like to have. I have people come in all the time to Grand Inspired who say it would be great to have this in addition to what we already have there. So I don't know, I will say that I don't know. I'm ignorant to any kind of agreements or relationship that the Historical Society and the city have about the use of that building. I do know that it's a gem. It's a beautiful, beautiful building. I would love to see more people go into it. As someone who spends my days right across the street, I do not see people going into the depot building. It's closed on the weekends when many people are in the town. This is no disrespect at all. As someone who's restored a building, I think I have a little bit of say to say that I do find it important to maintain history, to make sure that people have access to spaces that have been restored. And I don't know how many people actually know that there are historic relics there and that they can be viewed. I just don't see that right now. And I wish that there were such a space where people actually could see those things and enjoy them. So, I am in support of the Smet Foundation's plan, and I would support also the sale of the depot building, provided that there is a good plan in place for the Historical Society and a good plan in place that continues to and increases the use of that building as truly a public space. Thank you.
Okay, we have Catherine and then Alan's on deck.
Council members, Mayor. My name is Catherine Haynes. I live at 121 South Page Street. I am a 30-year resident of Stoughton and a 25-year member of the Stoughton Historical Society. I stand before you unable to reconcile the fact that the Society has been left out of input about the depot sale. Why would an important stakeholder, the Society, with a history of sweat equity in the building, be at best ignored and at worst blocked from participation in the process deciding the fate of this landmark building housing our museum annex? And why would the City Council be rushed to make a decision without hearing from the Stoughton Historical Society? The Smet Foundation presents an interesting idea for the Council's consideration. We are not against the concept of an arts district, but the proposed, depot sale and reuse needs to be carefully considered. I ask that you table this vote for now and allow more voices to be heard in the process. Thank you for your time.
And then last but not least is Alan, unless there's somebody else that wants to sign up quick.
I'm Alan Hedstrom. I reside at 1300 Schaffelker Lane in Stoughton. I'm a member of the Landmarks Commission, but tonight I'm speaking as a concerned citizen of the city regarding the potential sale of the historic train depot. I wanted to offer a few observations, concerns, and comments. Let me begin by saying I have nothing against the Smet Foundation. I know that they are great people and they've done great things. But I must admit I was shocked to learn of the potential sale of this historic landmark from out of the blue. I would imagine many community members felt the same way. And to my knowledge, there was no invitation or public hearing to discuss this project. And why do that? Because it's a prominent gateway building in the Depot Hill Historic District, for one. So the use matters. Secondly, this really is a community building, and I think many people regard it as, quote unquote, their building. And I think this is especially true for members of the Stoughton Historical Society. It is large, as you've already heard, it is largely through their volunteer labor and efforts that transformed it from a building in poor shape to the shining landmark it is today. I still remember some 36 years ago or so when the city bought the building from the DOT for a token fee of around $10,000. And I remember Mayor Fundheller declaring it a red letter day. Soon thereafter, the restoration by many volunteers began, and that effort was largely led by Nancy Hagan and other members of the Stoughton Historical Society. And over the years, it has served as office, meeting, display, and storage space for several organizations, including the Downtown Revitalization Association, the Chamber, and the Stoughton Historical Society. So I understand very well how many people, including Nancy and the Stoughton Historical Society, can feel like they have a vested interest in this building. After all, they have put forth a ton of sweat equity into making it what it is today. I'm sure there are many others in the community that also feel that way. What I don't understand is why the potential sale appears to be happening so quickly. I know Stoughton Historical Society had planned an informational meeting about the meeting for January 21st, a week from tonight. But it now seems like there's a chance that the sale could even be voted on tonight, before that meeting occurs. So why the rush? And why the depot? Couldn't the decision be tabled for at least a couple of weeks or a month or more? That way, the Stoughton Historical Society and perhaps others could at least offer their ideas and perspectives. I think I read that the memorandum of understanding was for 120 days. Surely there must be scope to slow down just a little and more thoroughly consider all the ramifications.
Your time's almost up if you want to just wrap it up. Quick.
Okay. After all, there is much at stake and much to consider, and although it may not have been the intent, I think a headlong rush to a decision will likely leave the Stoughton Historical Society, who invested so much in this building and do so much for Stoughton, feeling alienated and excluded all unnecessarily. I urge you to consider slowing down a little and allow interested parties an opportunity to offer their input on the potential sale of this important community building. Thanks for the opportunity to speak.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Otherwise, we'll move into our regular business. You're welcome to stay. If you leave, please don't congregate in the halls because that sound echoes into the room. But if you want to leave, now would be a good time. I'll give you a moment to do that before we start our next section of the meeting. Thank you for being here. I'll do the backwards tap. All right. All right, we're gonna resume the meeting then. The next item on the agenda is communications and presentations. And of course, we all look forward to our historical fact of Stoughton, even though we heard a lot of historical fact tonight. We need to make sure the door is open. Thank you.
All right, with as many historians that are in the audience now, this is almost embarrassing to bring some of these. You guys could probably go on with about 10,000 more than I could go on with. But just a few of these are all January happenings within the government, but some interesting bits, like some firsts and that were from the city. So we go back to 1877 when the city board at the time voted to require vaccinations versus smallpox for all children attending the village school. In 1888, the council or the board at that time voted to purchase the very first road machine for $230 in 1888. I was assuming, I went to look it up. I think it was like a grader, an early grader. I believe that's what it was. But 1893, the marshal was instructed to prevent kids from catching rides on sleighs on Main Street. We probably had more snow back then. In 1903, a meeting of the citizens to discuss the division of the city into the 4 wards took place. So the origination of the 4 wards of the city. And then in 1919, the council voted to have Main Street paved in concrete for the first time. Those are all I have.
All right, thank you. And then next we have guests from the Stoughton Chamber of Commerce are here, and they're going to come up and give us some information tonight. Thank you for being here. You're way in the back row. Yep, and the red light should come on for you.
Well, this is a complete coincidence. I had my agenda item a long time ago. So I'm Sarah Ebert. I'm the president of the chamber. I know most of you. I wanted to introduce you our 2 new employees. You know, Callie LaPointe had left. And in her place, we hired 2 people. We have our part-time tourism coordinator, Amanda Thomas. So you'll see her at the end of the year when she gives the summary. And our new events coordinator, Chloe Rui. So we've had our full staff for the last couple of months. So I wanted you guys to be able to meet her. You'll see Clove when she comes in for the for Set in Mind coffee break for the permits to get approved. And so you can see names to faces. And I just wanted to invite you, you guys got in the packet our member-to-member events. You are all chamber members. You fall underneath the city, therefore makes you a chamber member. So you are invited to come to these. We did have a general council email in for communication, but now we have your individual chamber or city emails in, so you'll be getting our newsletters. You'll have an opportunity if you want to sign up to come to any of those events, and I think it's a really great way, easy way for you to make some connections with business people make connections with you. That's one of the benefit of being a chamber member is that they have a direct link to the city. And we have a lot of fun. So I'm going to leave up here. I won't pass it out, but this is our 2025 card of the member events, and then also our community events, because the chamber puts on, some of the biggest community events Stoughton has. So we're always looking for volunteers and help, and so just reach out to me if you have any questions. So I'll just leave those right here and pick up the rest.
All right, thank you.
Cool, thank you.
That's it? All right, nobody else wants to speak? Okay. Are there any communications from council members? All right, I'm hearing none. I have one communication that I wanted to share. I received an email from Katrina Becker, and she worked with Brooke Johnson at the Green Pottery / Yahara Chocolate Shop, and they applied for a $25,105 grant. They call it a REAP grant for solar panel installation on their roof on Main Street, and that grant was approved, so we're really excited for them. So it's a huge savings of $2,350 a year, which is enough to provide electricity for 2 homes. So we're really excited for them. So I wanted to share that with you as we get more into our sustainability initiatives. I'm going to run through some slides really quick because we already heard a lot of information today about the depot building, and this is mostly for reference for you. And the slides that I'm showing are slightly updated from what you have in the packet. Not drastically. I think there's just one or two slides. So let me see if I can get this thing. All right. So the first one is back in 2007, there was an effort to put together a redevelopment authority. And one of the first things they did in 2008 is they created a blight district, which helped the redevelopment authority in the city apply for grants and some other things in order to do railroad corridor work. And there was numerous studies. Some of them had been done before then, and those are listed on here. And then the railroad corridor plan was adopted by the city council in 2009. And you can see there's different aspects in the plan, and you can read it later. But basically, river planning, our space study, and railroad redevelopment were some of the initiatives in there, and there's some bullet points that are highlighted in those areas. There is an implementation strategy, and some of the items that are in there were listed. And then there was a creation of the tax incremental financing district for that area to help spur the economic development. And that includes the redevelopment side or the RDA side along the river. Later on, that district was split into two districts, so TIF 5 and TIF 8. And this corridor that we're been talking about tonight is in TIF 5. And then we had a UW student that worked with the redevelopment authority to do what they call a capstone project in 2022 that identified some initiatives for that area to continue to redevelop. As mentioned earlier, some of the properties have already been renovated and businesses have moved there, which is attracting more people to Stoughton. And you can kind of see that the boundaries were outlined. Some of the goals were into the introduction. And then there's, kind of a flow chart here of some of the initiatives and implementation that came out of that plan. And I know there's RDA members that could speak more specifically to the components of that plan, if that's something you want them to do. But you can see a lot of it had to do with revitalization, adaptive reuse, being able to do more foot traffic and things like that to have more goods and services in the downtown Stoughton. October 8th of this year, when it became clear to me that the Schmidt Foundation was interested in the depot building, we put it on the city council agenda to alert council members that perhaps there might be a day where we're at now where there was an offer on the table in the building. As mentioned earlier, there was conversations going back well over a year ago, and then most recently, our building was identified as one of the first buildings that they would try to acquire. And then in November, at the Redevelopment Authority, there was a meeting to discuss entering into an agreement between the city and the RDA and the Schmetz. And then there's some other items regarding the Railroad Corridor Development Plan. And then in the December 10th meeting, so a month ago, is when the city council approved the memorandum of understanding, which gives us no more than 120 days to work with them toward potentially an agreement. And then at that meeting, we did receive a presentation from the Schmidt. These presentations and materials are on our website, and you can also view the last city council meeting if you want to see the presentation in its entirety on WSTO. So you can stream that online. We have our videos of these meetings are archived. They're filmed live just as it is tonight. And then also we can give you a printed copy if you want to stop by City Hall, or I can email it to you if that makes it easier for you. Outlined here are some benefits to the project that are consistent with all the plans that have been done in the past. And I talked about adapted reuse, utilizing the tax incremental finance district, historical credits, and just investing really in our downtown, just like our predecessors did, as mentioned, on the Opera House, the Depot building, the youth center, and other buildings in our community. We work with our economic development advisors to identify areas of things from the tax incremental financing to Inflation Reduction Act, to these REAP grants that I mentioned earlier for the solar panels, as well as historical preservation. When people come to City Hall and they're looking for a downtown building, we always encourage that. Or when they come in for a building permit, we always encourage them to try to use historical tax credits as a way to offset the costs of developing these buildings. And we've had an incredible amount of investment in our buildings in the last 5 years. And we've also been able to secure grants, pandemic money through the Badger Bounce Back Main Street grant through the state of Wisconsin for multiple businesses in the downtown for vacant spaces. And we're really fortunate that our downtown is thriving as well as it is. If you travel to other cities, you don't always see that. A little history on the Depot. As you heard tonight, it was bought back in 1988. The Historical Society raised over $20,000. We know they put in at least 350 volunteer hours, and we know that's probably underreported. We all put in more hours than we claim when we volunteer. There was also a grant in 1994 for almost $23,000 from the state of Wisconsin that I learned about recently, and that the Historical Society also provided over $4,000 worth of grants for a roof repair that we did on the canopy in 2021. Pictured here is the building when it was acquired by the city back in 1988, and then some of the, the invoices and notes that I found in our files. And the city obviously is committed to the downtown by making it a downtown historic district, which means all the businesses on Main Street go to the Landmarks Commission for approval. And, the Landmarks is also a great resource because there's expertise on there that helps identify opportunities as far as historic tax credits, potential vendors, and just really overall some good information and history on these buildings. The Depot Hill District was created a couple years ago. The city, in our budget, I submit every year, we contribute $20,000 toward mini grants where local landmarks can go through the Landmarks Commission and distribute funds to help them offset costs for their remodeling. The Landmarks website also has a walking and tour listing. The Historical Society, as I mentioned, provided grant money for the canopy roof. I participated, and the city participated with the chamber in the 175th anniversary recently, which we spent a lot of hours working side by side with the Historical Society, and got to learn quite a bit from them about Stoughton and the things that they do, and I appreciated that. The city also helped pay for a lead pipe replacement at the museum that the Historical Society owns on South Page Street when we did the lead pipe replacement program, because commercial buildings were not eligible for the DNR grant, only residential properties were, and the museum was one of 9 buildings that the City Council chose to use ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act funds, to help those businesses offset the costs. The city also supported and approved the Vintage Market, which was held last year, which was a great event on Division Street at the Pioneer House, also known as the Luke Stoughton House. And then we also have other grant opportunities available for the Stoughton Historical Society. A little bit about the finances. What we did is we went back 10 years to just try to understand how much money we invest in the chamber or the Depot building. And basically the utility cost is, on this chart you'll see, is right about $4,000 a year for utilities. And over 10 years, we invested $87,700, so about $8,700 a year in utilities and maintenance to the building. That does not include the city's cost to insure the building. I don't have that number yet. And we currently have an estimate from 2020 to paint the building, and that estimate was $33,000. We all know that estimate probably hasn't gone down, it's gone up. And we're in the process of, we're going to have to get a new quote on that bid so that can be painted in the spring. So that's going to be an additional expense. And then we also had an appraisal done on the building when we learned that there potentially might be an offer coming in. And the value of the building by the appraiser as a sales is $170,000. The income capitalization approach would be as an investor bought the building and rented it out, the value of the building would be $180,000, and then listed on here basically is kind of a breakdown of what you would charge per rent and that sort of thing if we were charging market rent on the building. And then there in the report, which certainly anybody is welcome to have, the appraisal report is a public record, just like anything else I'm showing on here. Really kind of lists the what we call a SWOT analysis, which is the strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats to the buildings, and then some other tax and assessment data. And one of the things is if the council does move forward, with the sale of the building, I think part of the conversation, and I've mentioned this to the Schmidt Foundation, would be to work with the Chamber of Commerce and with the Historical Society on a relocation plan. So I listed some things that might need to be considered if we were to get to that point. And then kind of some ideas of what they could do. Look for some existing buildings, which I've listed some. I'm sure there's others that are way better than the ones I came up with, just some ideas to get the discussion going, or potentially some, a new building could be put up. Certainly, we've heard that there may be some money available from a couple foundations, as well as if the city were to sell the building, the city would have the potential to participate in a relocation plan. So I've just thrown some ideas together here for consideration. So that's basically all I had tonight. There's more information than I put on here, but I wanted to at least put together some things for you to, in a condensed way, to at least get you a lot of information in an efficient way. So any questions on any of that? We don't take questions from the public. Certainly you're welcome to contact me offline if you have any questions, or if you want to fact check me. I'm always looking to learn if I made an error on anything. I can be reached pretty easily by cell phone or by my desk phone or by email. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody offline if you have any questions about that. I've really tried to make myself available to Nancy and others. We've met at the Pioneer House. We took a tour of the youth center, and hopefully I think I've answered pretty much every phone call or email that I've had regarding this building, and I pride myself on doing that, not only on this, but on any other issue that comes in front of us. And I know city staff prides themselves on response as well. So hopefully if you have had any trouble getting a hold of me or anyone else, feel free to let me know offline, and we can help make those connections. So I wanted to share that with you tonight. Not hearing any questions. The first action item for tonight, and I don't know who that is. Somebody online has their hands up, but I don't know if it's who it is. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's not a council member, so we're not opening it up for public questions. But that person online, feel free to contact me offline, and more be more than happy to answer any questions you might have. So the first item of agenda for tonight would be our consent agenda. There's a few items in there. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion by Jensen. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Abel. Would anybody like anything acted on separately on the consent agenda? Alderperson Legaki.
I'll be needing to abstain because I wasn't at the December 10th meeting. I don't know if you want to separate.
Okay. You're going to abstain just from the one?
Correct.
Okay. Should we split that out or should we just note it? Okay, and which meeting was it? December 10th?
It says December 14th, but I believe the meeting was December 10th.
So we'll take that item out, and then we're going to vote on item B, which is the committee minutes and reports. All in favor of the motion for those items, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? None opposed, that motion carries. So I'll take a separate motion for the minutes of December 14th.
Motion for the minutes on December 10th meeting.
December 10th.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a second by Alderperson Hirsch? Any discussion on that? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? And I think we might have an abstention.
Aye.
All right.
Abstain.
All right. Thank you. Okay, the next item is R1 of 2025, and this is an amending Chapter 66 ordinance. This is a first reading, and this one is coming from the Public Works Committee, which is Alderperson Majewski.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is Resolution 1 of 2025, ordinance amending Chapter 66-706 regarding street design standards to increase the minimum public street width for minor streets and add language to set minimum terrace widths for new development. This was approved by Public Works 4-0 on December 19th of 2024, and this is a first reading.
All right. Do you want to cover any specifics of it, or Director Munz-Pritchard, anything you want to add?
I think Tom did an excellent job covering it. It speaks for itself. If you guys have any additional questions or concerns, we can answer them.
Yeah, so I think basically the emphasis was to determine, the right-of-way widths, and then I'm not sure what we're using for the proper word now. We used to say terrace, but there's an inside joke there. What are we calling it now?
A terrace.
We are
just
calling
call
it
a terrace.
Okay, so what we want to do is we want to have it 12 feet, and the reason we want to have it 12 feet.
The green space within the terrace
Okay,
would be 12 feet minimum. And the reason for that is we have a lack of snow storage when plows are plowing on a number of streets that are existing. We don't want to see that in the future. We also have a conflict with utilities at times when we are rebuilding roads. You'll see them come through and basically cut all the existing trees down, and the reason for that is because you have conflicts with the underground lines. This allows for more room to separate the trees from the utility lines. And the existing 60-foot widths are inadequate for today's planning.
The 66 feet too is state code. So like, let's say we build a road and then we're meeting up with roads outside of the city for annexations later on. We don't want that jog. So like the minimum 66 feet is what falls under state regulations. Now we do have, and we will have wider street widths, the right of way, but not the physical street.
all right. Does anybody have any questions on that? So what happens on these ordinances, we do a first reading, which is the introduction, and then it comes back at the next council meeting for approval or denial, or we can amend it. And then if you have any questions between now and then, you can reach out to Director Munz Pritchard, and she can, try to answer your questions either right away or before that next meeting, before it's approved.
So just one small clarification. So right now it's labeled as a resolution. I think it should be changed to ordinance. Yeah, so it should be.
Oh, on the top.
It also says 2024. Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
it's
that's
just
when they
correcting it to
approved
ordinance.
it. So that's fine. But we need to change the title to ordinance. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. And if anything else comes up, just feel free to let us know, and we'll get that corrected. Okay. So the next 3 items are items that we could eventually go into closed session if you so choose. And I think what we want to do is at least get an overview of all 3 in open session, and then kind of go from there. Because we're not going to go into one, go into closed session, and keep going in and out of closed session. So the first one is discussion and possible action regarding the offer to purchase that property at 515 and 600 South 4th Street, which is known as the Stoughton Utility Building. Is that also the
pump house?
The pump house, or the powerhouse as we know it. So we did receive what is our second offer to purchase, and coincidentally, that's been following the same timeline as the other offer to purchase we received tonight, which is kind of unusual. So the offer to purchase is in the packet. Our plan is to discuss the details of the policy decisions that we would negotiate in closed session, and the city attorney is going to lead that discussion. And I think in open session, we can certainly talk about some components of that offer, but I don't know if there's something specific that the council members want to know. This is an offer that we received from Yahara Bay Distilleries. The actual offer is in the council packet. That is a public record, and the terms and conditions are outlined in there. And as I mentioned, that is something that the city attorney would walk us through during the closed session. So we were offered $2,200,000 for the building. We do have an appraisal for the building, which was about $2.8 million. And then there's some dates and requests for information, which is customary, like maps and those types of things. Do you have a question, Alderperson Abel?
Can you just remind us, what was their initial offer? Because we went back to them, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I
want to say it was 1.6.
Yeah, I think it was 1.6.
Yeah, 1.6. And the other thing that's different with this one is they did ask for the powerhouse, and we're going to talk about that as well as part of this discussion, because we received some new information on Thursday. Did you have a question, Alderperson Hirsch?
No, it was with respect to that. I mean, it seems like the powerhouse was just thrown in there, and that has not. It was interesting that, unlike the Smet Foundation, they have not put together a presentation or have told us what their plans are or their vision for another landmark area that is, I think a lot of people in the city would be surprised that this is even on the city docket, and I was, and half this offer to purchase doesn't even name the powerhouse in it. It just keeps on saying, every single header keeps on saying 600 South 4th and not the 515, except for that very first part. So yeah, I have lots of questions and concerns about that.
So let me give you a little information on what we learned last week, and then I'll let the city attorney speak to the rest. So last week, we had a meeting with the DNR on site along the riverfront to talk about the downstream permits. One that we have submitted with the underpass that's approved with conditions, and the other 2 permits that we are submitting for the downstream features that we want to put in to the river. And when I got there right after they started, and I asked the question. I said, well, is there anything we need to know about the relationship between the powerhouse or the pump house and any of the improvements we want to do along the river? And the DNR told us, well, the pump house or the powerhouse is part of the dam. And Rick can give more clarification on that. We did get a follow-up email from the DNR today, which was news to all of us. So, and the reason I bring it up tonight is it's in the offer, and that's one of the things that we'll talk about in closed session. But I want to at least give you a little bit of background about that conversation. So go ahead.
Yeah, and basically because the pump house property is considered part of the dam, are connected, or I don't know the exact terminology that DNR is using, but it can't be sold unless the DNR consents. But with some of the trail improvements, once those are done, or some of the improvements along the river, once those are done, it would actually be disconnected from the dam and no longer be considered part of the dam, which means that restriction wouldn't apply, but that would be months. So it's not like it could be sold right now without the DNR's consent.
So one of the things in closed session you would want to talk about is what our options might be regarding that as it relates to this offer to purchase.
And I guess as far as the use goes, my understanding is that would be like in the future, a tasting room or like a bar area for the distillery. But we can certainly request that they come to a future meeting to give a updated concept presentation if the council's interested.
Alderperson Lagaki.
I know Regina has more questions, but I only have one. So on page 4 of 12 of the offer, there's a section called proposed use.
Which line is it?
Proposed use, 181.
181. All right.
So I remember when Yahara Bay owner came and gave the presentation and spoke with us, and he talked about keeping the food bank there. And I'm wondering I don't see that listed. I know he's not buying that as a business, but it is in that building. And I think there's discussion of EMS and Stoughton Utilities needing to time and lease and all that, but there's no mention anywhere of the food pantry. And so it's not listed in the proposed use. Have there been changes? Has that fallen away? Can you give us an update about that?
I do not know the specifics about that. You are correct. There's no mention of the food pantry in there, but that's something we can maybe talk about in closed session about how we might respond.
Yeah. I have no reason to believe it's anything other than an oversight, but I don't know that for certain. But yeah, that's a good catch. Any other questions? Alderperson Butler.
Is the $2.8 million value both buildings or just the utilities building?
We have the appraisal for like the quote unquote Stoughton Utilities buildings, like the whole building. We have an appraisal for that at $2.8 million. There's, I don't believe, an appraisal of the other property.
There is an appraisal for the other property underway, and we stopped because there was a question on whether or not we just wanted the building itself appraised or if we wanted any additional land around it appraised with it. And that's something that I'm probably going to be looking for direction from you guys for. I don't know if it's going to change the number that much, but I don't see anything in here that they've asked for in addition. So I think that's something else we can talk about as well, of what that might look like. Any other questions? I think the other really notable change is the original offer, I believe, gave the offices of Stoughton Utilities and EMS basically 2 years to relocate. And this one here, I believe, gives...
It's 3 and 3, so potentially 6 years to relocate. Not very few specifics on the lease terms, but it would be basically a 3-year lease with the option to extend for an additional 3 years.
Which would give us more time, to plan, what we want to do. In the meantime, Stoughton Utilities did approve in their budget to do some feasibility study this year on potentially a new building. And you might recall that last year we began and haven't quite finished the process of trying to understand what a new public safety building might look like in the future. There's no timetable for that. My initial thought is if we were to move forward on this sale, we would see whether or not any of the proceeds from this sale might be used to acquire land for a future building. So we can at least secure the land and the location we want it. So when it's time to build, we have a plan. But there's no timetable on when that would be. So Assistant Utilities Director Hoops has a comment.
Yeah, just a comment for the city attorney. You said that there's a 3-year period with a 3-year option to extend. Just want to clarify that. At least my reading of the language is that is for the EMS. The utilities only has a period of 3 years. So something to discuss as well.
Yeah, I guess I interpret it as 3 and 3 for both fire or for both utilities and EMS, but we can clarify the intent there. It would need to be negotiated regardless, like as part of any deal that we do, but we can get clarification.
And I think those are probably the most major changes from what we received in the first offer. Mm-hmm. Did you have anything else you want to cover in open session?
No, I think that generally describes it, and we can talk more specifics about council's thoughts about negotiating or moving forward in closed session.
Alderperson Legacki.
You may have said it, and I'm sorry if I missed it, but is there an assessed value of the pump station or the powerhouse?
It's underway, but it's on hold because we're not sure about the land around it, whether or not. I didn't even know they were going to make an offer on it, but we had put a hold on it anyway because we're trying to understand if we should include additional space, for example, on the side for parking or additional space for a potential deck out the back toward the river. And we haven't had any conversations with, you guys, and we have to do a CSM and things that the RDA will be involved with as well. So we have the process started, but we're going to be looking for direction from the council and or the RDA on what we think the potential CSM could look like. So once we get that direction, we can ask the appraisal company to finish the appraisal, but right now it is on hold until we get some direction from you all.
Right, and that RDA knows nothing about this, so this is the first.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at on that one. Any more questions? Otherwise, we'll go to the next one, and that's the offer to purchase at 532 East Main Street. And anything in particular you want to talk about with that one? Attorney Matthew.
This one is, I guess legally speaking, a little bit more straightforward in the fact that it's a straight $170,000 offer to purchase for the property.
Which is the appraisal price.
So there's, some contingencies in there, but otherwise, like I said, it's a fairly straightforward offer to purchase. And we just received this on Wednesday, I believe. But we can talk more in closed session about negotiation direction for the city.
Okay. Any questions on that one? Alderperson Legaki.
I'm not there yet, but on one of the pages of the contract near the end, where it gives the name of the foundation, I was confused because it had the first names I recognized, but there was the name of Lee. I never saw Schmidt. I just was curious about wherever that is, and if I can find the line, I'll tell you, but I know it's them, but it was language I didn't expect.
Line 635.
Thank you.
All right, you have note of that?
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions on this one? Okay. All right, then we'll move on to the third item, and that one is the discussion regarding the J.T. Klein tax incremental finance request. And we have Shane is here from Ellers, and he's going to go through his analysis. I think I saw folks here from J.T. Klein, and basically what we did is the Ellers, our financial consultant, put together a recommendation based on their experience, industry standards, whatever criteria they use, and Shane can articulate that better than I can. J.T. Klein does their own analysis, and as usual, the numbers aren't exact, but Shane can kind of walk us through what he has. And basically, I think there's going to be a decision point that we'll have to make on whether or not we want to go with the recommendation or if we want to go with what the developer is proposing. The communication I've received from the developer is financially they wouldn't be in a position to move forward without what they're requesting. They're here to speak to that. And Ellers can kind of give us what the delta of that looks like. And I think the thing I want to emphasize is this project would be, I believe, 62 and older, Section 42. So it'd be subsidized housing on 51 West, past Stoughton Lumber there on that side of the road, on about 5 acres. It's fairly likely that if we can't get this deal done, the next developers more than likely would want to do a market rate project because there will be a delay, and if there's a delay, that's less tax incremental financing money we'd have to work with. So that's something I wanted to at least let you know when we go into the discussion. I've talked to the property owner. He's had conversations, people approach him about doing market rate. But really, at the end of the day, I think it comes down to what does the council want to do? Do they want to move forward with this housing project, which provides seniors and people that are in workforce development and opportunity for affordable housing? Or do you want to see if there's somebody else that'll do it or go to a market rate product? So, Shane, you can let me know when you're queued up. If we have folks from J.T. Klein here as well that can certainly answer any questions, and we'll go from there. I didn't get a response. Can you hear me, Shane? Give a text. All right.
I don't know if the volume's not high enough.
Yeah, we're not hearing you, Shane.
mean, otherwise we could start with a presentation from Klein.
Sure. Well, we're trying to get him, if JT Klein, if you guys want to come up and share where you're at, we can certainly do that, and then we'll try to reach out to Shane and see if he can log back in or something. I don't know if he can hear us or not, or you can send us a message if he can hear us, Shane. Okay. So you can hear us, but we're not hearing you, Shane. So maybe, Shane, if you want to call in or try something else. Is there anything you want to cover before Shane gets on, or do you want to wait for him? Okay, that'll be good.
I'm going to use the restroom.
Okay.
It's all the above.
You could hear Candy before before the meeting started, right?
What's that?
You could hear Candy before the meeting started.
Yeah, I could.
Okay.
Candy, can you still hear us?
I can. You're just fine.
Okay. So we know it's working.
Yep.
Yeah.
You guys hear me now?
We can. There's a couple people that stepped out of the room, so if you could go ahead and get set up.
Yeah. Ready, sorry about that. Mayor, did you want me to run through the PowerPoint now or do that during the closed session?
I'll leave that up to you and Rick, but I'm just lost video here, so I might have to log back in here myself.
Yeah, Shane, I guess you could just do like an overview of your analysis and the couple scenarios that you ran.
Sure. Yeah, so thank you, Mayor and others. So yeah, we've been engaged on the JT Klein project for a number of months now. I will share, I'm going to share some of the slides here. And give me a second to get that.
Yeah, it's gonna take me a second too. I logged out of the meeting and they won't be able to see it if I don't get logged back in. All right, I'm back in. Now I can see you again. All right, looks like your screen is loading. Is everyone back in the room? Yeah. Okay, we're ready.
All right, you can see the slide now. Is that right?
Correct.
All right, great. So we're engaged on the JT Klein project. I've been working with the developer and city staff on the project for a couple of months now. High-level overview, this is part of an existing TID, relatively new TID. The Dvorak development agreement controls a lot of the money that comes out of the TID on the front end. On the back end of the TID, there is some money available after the obligation to Dvorak is paid out, and assuming a lot of things happen on the development side, where the city would receive money on the back end of the TID. The project that we're talking about today is on Lot 5. Earlier in the project, there was a proposal on Lot 2 as well, but right now we're talking about Lot 5. And the reason that is because there's an obligation in the Dvorak agreement for the TIF that comes out of Lot 2 that's pledged to Dvorak first, whereas Lot 5 was carved out of that agreement. And so any TIF that's generated there can be pledged to that development without having to run through the Dvorak agreement. And so earlier iterations and consistent with the site plan that's in the Dvorak agreement, there's 96 units over 2 buildings. A 60-unit age restricted project was going to be one of the buildings, and a 36-unit building called the family building was going to be the other building. Now that's been combined and updated a bit to be 120 units overall. 2 buildings shaded differently there, one age restricted to 62 plus, with the other not age restricted. Total development cost is $32.8 million, and we go through a process where we look at what the market value of the project is estimated to be by working with the assessor. We then estimate property taxes and TIF generated. We do a performer review to determine how much TIF we think is needed to get the project done. We benchmark that performance against other LifeTech projects in Wisconsin, read an underwriting criteria and so on. Ultimately enter into a negotiation and then a development agreement. And with that, that's kind of a high-level overview. I think maybe we could save the rest of the discussion for the closed session, and be happy to answer any questions.
All right, are there any initial questions from council members?
I guess I just have one. Why the big jump from 96 to 120 units?
Thank you, Mayor and Alderman. The answer is that originally the developer proposed roughly that number of units across Lot 2 and Lot 5 and wanted to keep that same number of units. But since Lot 2 has obligations through the Dvorak agreement, that was separated out and kind of everything was pushed onto Lot 5. And I believe they still need to work through the development and zoning, entitlement approvals and so on in order to make that happen.
So I think the idea, and I don't want to speak for these guys, is, you know, to create enough density, to create enough value in order to make the numbers come out. And you guys are welcome to jump in and clarify that. You got pushed. There you go. There you
I'll
go.
try that again. My name is Jacob Klein. I'm the president of JT Klein. This is Kevin. Kevin's my development director. Actually, on that one, what the answer is we applied for 3 federal home loan bank applications. I think if you guys remember last time we were in here, as part of the financing for this project, and those grant applications were like, I want to say like 2 million plus like 3.6. So it was like 5.6 million of grant applications we had for the 96 units. We also had a $1.8 million application into the county. We got the $1.8 million from the county, and we got blown out 0 for 3 on the Federal Home Loan Bank. So the real reason why we increased the density, and we've been tracking kind of the city's progress in changing the R24 to a higher level or whatever of units per acre, but really we're just, we're trying to bridge a gap on this deal. We tried to add units. We've been trying to get an amount of TIF that makes it worth us trying to move forward. I mean, we're at a point now where basically next step is we got to spend probably close to $400,000 on construction drawings, engineering, etc. To get a project out to bid and closed. We're not there. This is a pay-as-you-go TIF. So we're the ones taking all the risks here. We've asked for Ellers to make some movement on some of the projections, all of which are, in my opinion, incredibly, if not beyond conservative. I'd be really interested to hear his performance against other tax credit projects, because with what he's suggesting, this thing just doesn't get done. Maybe there's other developers that are out there that are willing to take this kind of risk on for no return. But I've been doing this for 20 years. We've got 1,000 units in Dane County that I've built. I started the company in my basement and have developed that over 10 years. And we didn't get there not, taking stupid risks. And, we love the market here. Kevin's from here. You know, you've got senior housing, that's a huge need. It's not easy to build. You know, you aren't competitive for any of the pools, the competitive buckets of WIDA money. And so, you know, that's a fact. It is what it is. It is what it is, right? We can't change your census tracts. We can't make WIDA do whatever they want. But I think we got a good project. You know, if we don't get, you know, what we've requested, you know, we're not at a point to move forward, and we're idle until, you know, another year of sitting around on a hope and a prayer that, you know, maybe we are more competitive in Federal Home Loan Bank this year, you know, but that doesn't, you know, that's a hope, a wish, and a prayer, and delays it at least a year. And so, you know, we're hoping that you guys, you know, consider this tonight. I'm sure you're going to hear a lot from Ellers, but that's where we're at. And, you know, we appreciate you guys having us here, and we're happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right. Anything you want to add, Kevin, or?
No, not necessarily anything to add. Again, any questions that we can highlight the deal if you need an overview again. It's probably been maybe 2-3 months since we presented last, so if a brief overview is needed of the project, we'd be happy to do so as well.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Alder Hirsch?
Yeah, I just have one question before we get walk away. You say senior housing, is this like assisted living, or is it just apartments for people over 62? I mean, there's
84 units, affordable, independent senior housing, 62 and over, no services.
Okay.
Financed with Section 42 tax credits, so like tenants will have to earn between 30 and 70% of the area median income to live in the senior building. And then the family building, workforce building, that's 36 units, a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay. Is there anything else to discuss before we contemplate going into closed session?
I don't think so, unless, you know, there are any other questions. I think we could go into closed session on all these items.
All right. Who wants to honor a reading? I assume you want to go into closed session to talk about at least one or all 3 of these. Okay. Who wants to have the honors to read the?
I haven't done it yet.
You haven't done it yet?
I might as well go.
All
Take
right,
my
do you
turn.
have it in front of you?
I
It's
do.
On the bottom of the agenda. Take a big breath and go.
If I can do it all in one breath, wow. The Common Council may convene in closed session per state statute 19.85 sub 1 parent E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. The Common Council may reconvene in open session to discuss and take action on the subject matter discussed in the closed session, and I so move.
Second.
A second by Schumacher. Any discussion on that? Hearing none. When you're ready, Candy, we need a roll call vote.
Okay, Abel,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Caravello,
Aye.
Hirsch,
Yes.
Jensen,
Aye.
Lagaki,
Aye.
Majewski,
Affirmative.
Schumacher,
Yes.
Wozniak, Scanlon, she's there, but I don't hear her. Nino.
Aye.
Thank you. That's 10 alders in favor.
All right, we'll go into closed session. Do you want to take a quick break? Okay, we'll take a quick break. I'll check with